up and started burning fossil fuels 2.5 centuries ago. But it's just one more thing to remind us all of how serious the situation potentially is. And by that, the situation, I'm talking about global climate change.
In a moment that instantly went viral and had the internet in a full-blown frenzy, science educator and TV legend Bill Nye, better known to millions as the Science Guy, delivered a stunning laser-precise takedown of former President Donald Trump live on national television, leaving both the studio audience and a panel of pundits in stunned silence before erupting in applause. The event unfolded on a primetime panel segment of a major news program where Bill Nye had been invited to discuss climate change and the role of scientific education in politics. The host, expecting a relatively tame conversation about renewable energy and STEM literacy, instead witnessed history in the making as the conversation veered toward Trump's repeated denials of climate science, COVID misinformation, and general anti-intellectualism. Nye, sitting calmly in his trademark bow tie and blazer, initially responded with his usual scientific poise until the host brought up a viral Trump clip where the former president mocked wind energy and claimed that wind turbines cause cancer and solar panels don't work at night. Nye blinked. He leaned forward. What followed was a verbal scalpel, sharp, controlled, and devastating. Donald Trump, Nye began, has built a brand on rejecting expertise, not just mine, or doctors or climate scientists, but anyone who knows anything he doesn't, which is almost everyone. The studio chuckled, but Nye wasn't joking. Let me be clear, when someone repeatedly spreads misinformation, denies facts, mocks evidence, and refuses to learn even the basics of science, what do you call that? That's not leadership. That's ignorance. And when it's intentional, it's not just ignorance, it's dangerous idiocy. The word idiocy hit like a shockwave. The audience gasped. The host stammered. Twitter caught fire. But Nye wasn't done. He pulled out a laminated chart showing the rising levels of CO5 over the last century and said, "This is data, not opinion." And for the former president of the United States to look at this, then look at a camera and say climate change is a hoax, that's not just wrong. It's willful denial of reality. It's the scientific equivalent of looking at a fire and saying, "What fire?" while your house burns down. Clips of the segment were instantly clipped and posted online by media watchdogs and fan accounts alike. The hashtags #BillNyeOwnsTrump, #ScienceVersus and #NyeDrop trended across platforms. Even late-night hosts who typically do the roasting themselves paused to praise Nye's composure and clarity. Meanwhile, conservative outlets reacted with fury. Fox News accused Nye of weaponizing science against American values. Trump himself, predictably, fired back on Truth Social, calling Nye a phony scientist and a washed-up children's host, adding, "I know more about science than anyone. I built buildings." Nye, asked to respond in a follow-up interview, simply said, "Facts aren't partisan, and buildings don't cancel hurricanes." The quote was printed on T-shirts by the next morning. Scientists, educators, and public intellectuals rallied around Nye's remarks, praising him for saying what many in the science community had felt for years, but didn't have the platform or nerve to say so bluntly. Meanwhile, Trump supporters labeled Nye a deep state agent, and protests broke out outside a science museum in Texas for reasons nobody could quite explain. Still, Nye's appearance ignited a much-needed national conversation about the role of knowledge in leadership. University professors cited it in lectures, teachers played it in classrooms. Even overseas, European media praised Nye's clarity in the face of American absurdity. And while Trump's base remained loyal, many independent voters and centrists began to question how the country had allowed science denial to become a political identity. In the days that followed, media outlets replayed the clip in endless loops, and memes flooded the internet, casting Nye as a bow-tie-wearing Jedi, calmly dismantling a dark lord of nonsense. Whether it changed votes remained to be seen, but one thing was certain: Bill Nye had done what few could. With facts, reason, and unshakable calm, he walked into the lion's den of misinformation, dropped a truth bomb live on air, and walked out untouched, while the rest of the world scrambled to process what they'd just witnessed. The aftershocks of Bill Nye's live takedown of Donald Trump rippled far beyond the studio, igniting debates from classrooms to congressional offices as the video continued racking up millions of views per hour across YouTube, TikTok, and every major social platform. Overnight, Nye's remarks were not just trending, they became cultural flashpoints. University science departments issued open letters applauding his courage, while public high school teachers across the country added clips of his speech to lesson plans on media literacy, misinformation, and climate change. Scientists from NASA, NOAA, and the CDC quietly applauded behind the scenes, while environmental groups hailed the moment as a rare case of pop science taking a defiant stand against political ignorance. The New York Times ran a Sunday front-page op-ed titled "The Bow Tie That Broke the Dam," arguing that Nye's bold language marked a cultural shift, one where scientists, long silent in the face of political misinformation, were finally refusing to stay polite. But predictably, backlash from Trump's camp was swift and vicious. MAGA influencers launched smear campaigns online, attempting to discredit Nye's credentials, even resurfacing old children's show clips in a desperate attempt to paint him as just a TV actor. One Fox News host accused Nye of using science to bully patriotic Americans, while Tucker Carlson, broadcasting from his new independent platform, sneered, "If you need a guy with cartoon props to tell you how to think, you're already lost." But Nye, unfazed, doubled down, appearing on multiple news programs over the next 48 hours.
Is that your question?
Without human activity, what would the process look? Here's the point that I hope our viewers can understand. I'm not in any way denying that the climate is changing. I'm utterly open to the possibility that the change is caused by man's activity. I'm merely calling into question your claim that all of this is settled, that we know precisely what is happening and why, and that anyone who asks pointed questions about it is a denier and ought to be imprisoned or shouted off the stage.
No, that was your word. That's you guys. That's not my claim, and I really.
Would you like me to read your quote? That people who disagree with you ought to potentially go to.
He calmly but firmly reiterated that calling out misinformation isn't partisan, it's responsible. "I didn't call Trump an idiot because he disagrees with me politically," he told MSNBC. "I said it because rejecting proven science, misleading millions, and refusing to learn the most basic facts in the middle of planetary emergencies isn't just irresponsible, it's stupid." That quote quickly landed on bumper stickers, mugs, and viral Instagram reels. Late-night comedians praised Nye's poise. Trevor Noah joked, "We just watched Bill Nye go from science guy to savage king in under 60 seconds. Meanwhile, Trump's camp launched a counter-offensive, releasing a poorly edited video of Trump surrounded by engineers, claiming to be smarter than any scientist, all while waving a miniature American flag. But the damage was done, and the image that stuck in the public's mind wasn't Trump's half-hearted comeback. It was Bill Nye holding a COV, looking directly into the camera, and saying, "Reality matters." International leaders chimed in too. Greta Thunberg. "Thank you, Bill Nye, for speaking science without apology." Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau posted a clip with the caption, "Leadership requires facts." Even in the UK, members of Parliament referenced Nye's comments during climate legislation debates, with one MP joking, "If only our Prime Minister had a science guy in his ear instead of spin doctors." But perhaps the most powerful moment came days later during a surprise appearance at the National Science Teaching Association's annual conference, where Nye walked on stage to a standing ovation and delivered a moving speech not about Trump, but about truth. "We are living in a time," he said, "when facts are debated and science is optional. If we want a future, a livable, breathable, survivable future, we have to stop pretending ignorance is just another opinion." His voice trembled slightly, but his message was unshakable. That speech, combined with the viral takedown, sparked a new wave of youth activism, with hashtags like #ScienceSpeaks and #ListenToNye trending alongside videos of students organizing school rallies for climate action. Though Trump continued his attacks, claiming Nye was a clown with charts, even some in his inner circle began advising him to let it go, because the more he responded, the more powerful Nye's words became. The science guy had done more than go viral, he'd started a movement. As the Bill Nye firestorm continued to gather momentum, what had begun as a sharp rebuke on live television was quickly evolving into a full-fledged cultural reckoning. Commentators dubbed it the Nye moment, a rare convergence of science, public truth, and mass media influence that broke through the noise of everyday outrage fatigue. In cities across the United States, rallies formed seemingly overnight, some organized by high school science clubs, others by university students, waving homemade signs that read, "In Nye we trust. Make America think again," and facts, feelings. On TikTok, Gen Z creators used Nye's takedown as the soundtrack for fast-paced explainer videos on climate change, ocean acidification, vaccine science, and disinformation. Subscribe line. If you believe that truth matters, and you want to stay informed, hit that subscribe button now. Join the movement for clarity, evidence, and a better future. Don't miss out. Stay tuned for more thought-provoking insights, and be part of the change today.